Great to see everybody here tonight. Please be seated. All right. So I'd like to welcome everybody here again to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Teacher Certification course. And of course it takes a lot of effort to get here, and even for those online too, to get here and actually put the diligence forth to continue in this class, of course. So we'd like to thank everybody for putting forth that effort and using some self-control and getting there. Okay, we're in the respect unit, and Chris finished up the last class. I think he finished page 182 and might have mentioned page 183. And I know he went over the procedure 6, I think it was. Procedure 6 on LP 7. Yes, he went through procedure 6, and of course he mentioned that even though you don't see page 182 and 183 listed in the procedure on lesson plan 7, page D, that's still part of the lesson, and we go through that. We started with 181 there, and then 182 and 183, and we're on page 183 now. So if you could turn your books to page 183, and for those of you that are online, you can download the respect unit and follow along if you don't actually have the book. And in fact, you can download any of the books that we've already been working with, so, or that we've already covered, and the upcoming books as we get to them also. Just keep that in mind. So I hope everybody's been following along here these past few classes. You know, we're talking about the environment, we're talking about the air, we're talking about the water, why it's important to us to have clean, fresh air and clean, fresh water, and some of the things that can, you know, make those things bad for us. You know, we were talking about the air pollution and then the water pollution and some of the horrid things that they do. You know, not to dwell too much on it. One of the things that to keep in mind is that in many rural areas, people have wells, and Chris mentioned that in the last class, that great, cool, fresh mineral water I was talking about, this right here, is actually well water, and it's clean well water. You know, people drill wells, they have them tested, make sure everything's okay, and you've got clean, fresh water that doesn't have all the chemicals and all the backflush and everything that the cities have. So, that being said, let's go to page 183, and up at the very top, this is why the Peaceful Solution. This is why we're talking about these things in the Peaceful Solution. You know, people ask why, and that why is that we need to learn through caring about ourselves and others and showing self-control and responsibility for our resources that are out there. We need to learn to control ourselves. We need to learn to take care of these resources, because if you don't, what we've been talking about is what you see. Everything just becomes messed up, including the land, which we'll be talking about a little bit later on tonight. But so looking at straight talk at the top of 183, it says deliberate pollution of our lakes, streams, and oceans because of negligence and illegal dumping of garbage, waste, and toxic substances show a lack of appreciation for our water, because pollution of our water will eventually affect all life. See, remember, there is a ripple effect to everything that we do. Every action that we take, there is a ripple effect to that action. Whether it be positive or negative, we don't even see how far that ripple effect goes, but it just continues and continues and continues. So we need to keep that in mind when thinking about our resources, okay? It's up to us as individuals and as a society to take responsibility for keeping our waters clean and free of pollutants and contaminants. It is up to us. And so that's where we can see where the Peaceful Solution comes in. I'm sure that those of you that are training to be teachers of the Peaceful Solution the many of you I see out here that have been here all the time, all the classes, and learning, as well as those of you online. I can't really see you, but I know a lot of the same ones are out there. You can take hold of that, and you training to be a teacher of the Peace of Solution, you should take hold of that and realize when the temptation comes to throw something in the water that you know is foul, don't do it. Think twice about it. Or when you're thinking about throwing some trash out or other types of garbage, excuse me, even though something might be biodegradable, it still isn't very sightly, like someone throws some, I don't know, banana peel or some fruit or something out the window on the side of the road. Many things can occur from that point. Not only is it unsightly, but also animals might come up close to the road and while searching for this food get hit by a car. Now, see how that ripple effect just keeps on going? What if someone loses their life because you threw a peach out the window, or a banana, or a Chico stick or whatever, People do that all the time, and they think, oh, it's biodegradable, it ain't gonna hurt nothing. Well, no, it can. So, excuse me. So let's keep that in mind. All right. So just so you know, and one of the other boxes there on page 183, industries are the largest users of water. Factories use water mainly for manufacturing materials. For example, it takes about 150 gallons of water to make one Sunday paper. Now, some of you out there might not even know what a Sunday paper is, but back in the day, I would say 10, 15 years ago, even more than that, let's just say 20 years ago, the Sunday paper was a big deal. The internet was just really coming along, where most people had it in their homes in the early 2000s or so. Some had them before then, but mostly when people were getting them in their homes was 2000 up. Prior to that, communication was done by telephone, TV, telegraph, mail, a lot of landline telephones, which some of you have probably never seen one of those. Those that are younger, and the papers, the newspapers. Every town had a daily newspaper, and some states had like a statewide newspaper that people would get. I know in the southern part of Arkansas, where I was for a while, you could get the local paper of the little town that had 7,000 or 10,000 people in it, but you could also get one of the two major leading state newspapers. They were statewide, and a lot of people did, so they could kind of keep track of what was going on all throughout the state. Of course, they relied a lot on the media being truthful at that time, and at that time, even though there was some, actually a lot of the papers had two different points of view. They had the conservative point of view, the liberal point of view, and other points of view. And they crisscrossed and went back and forth, and you could read it and feel like you were getting some of the facts, and you could look at their opinions and decide if you wanted to listen to their opinion or not. Nowadays, I think most of the media is very opinionized, and it depends on what channel you turn on, what website you go to, or what newspaper you get, on what view you're going to get of the daily occurrences. So, but this Sunday paper was a big deal. It was big. You'd have the little paper that cost 25 or 50 cents throughout the week, and then you would have the Sunday paper, which would be more like 75 cents, or when it got to be $1, it was like, oh man, that's horrible, But it did have a lot of information in it, and back in the day, it used to have pages and pages and pages of want ads. Help wanted type ads, where people would go and look in the paper for help wanted. They didn't go on the internet to find out who needed help. They didn't text a local company to find out if they were hiring. They went to the newspaper. So the Sunday paper was a huge, huge deal. And I think the last Sunday paper I ever bought was probably about $1, $1.50, something like that. But I remember going to Okay. Well, so I remember recently being in Arkansas, and I went to get one of those. It was a daily paper. I went to get one of them, and the daily paper was $3. I mean, that just blew my mind. I couldn't even believe it. $3 for a daily paper, this little bitty thin thing that had, 10 pages or so, and really I was like, really? People do that? And I think what it is they're wanting to get away from the production of that and get people online. And probably for this reason too, part of it, if it takes 150 gallons of water to make one Sunday paper, that's kind of ridiculous. What a waste of water. Anyway, it takes about 160 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of aluminum. So you think about the aluminum cans that we go through, and I don't know roughly how many cans it takes to make a pound. It takes quite a few. But 160 gallons of water to make an aluminum can, to make a few aluminum cans? Really? I mean, that just sounds so ridiculous. So manufacturing uses a lot of our resources. Now, granted, they use it and it goes back into the stream. I know at the paper company, which there was a paper mill nearby where I lived in Arkansas, and you could smell it for many miles away, a really rotten smell, but they were right on the river, so they had quite a flow of water into their facility, and they just pumped it right back out, probably no matter how defiled. But nevertheless, a lot of resources are used in manufacturing. That can kind of give you a little bit of a picture. And, who's to say who gets to use that? I mean, it's like some towns have, they had well water that was nice, clean water that tested out really alkaline. And big water companies, you would know some of the names if I mentioned it, but big drink companies came in and they built a plant and they started pumping that water out of the municipal wells and selling it to people, and pumping out a lot, pumping out so much that the town started having water problems. And so then when they try to limit this water, they start screaming, you're trying to hurt commerce, you're trying to kill our business and all. And these are big companies that got big lawyers, and lots of big lawyers. So, you can imagine how that might go. But that's going on all over the United States. They're taking advantage of that. And who's to say who gets to use what? So you're going to have a hard time changing somebody's mind if they're making a lot of money on the water. Or you're going to have a hard time changing someone's mind if they're upstream from you and they're damming up some of the water to use as irrigation in their field, but you're just trying to get a little bit to feed your sheep or cattle or water your little garden or something, having a hard time getting it. Who is to say? Well, this is really where the peaceful solution comes in. We as individuals, we can change ourselves. And so if we have true care and concern for others, we're not going to try to take everything to ourselves, be greedy and selfish and take it all, that kind of attitude. We're going to know that, hey, this belongs to everybody coming down the path. Let's not ruin it for anybody else, and let's not take all of it either. Let's take what we need and go from there. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind when we're talking about these things, which you'll see shortly. So we can never deplete our water supply. It can be used over and over again. Now, I'm not talking about the recycling that they do in the cities right now, but this means that the glass of water you drink contains molecules of water that have been used countless times before. That's right. Centuries, thousands of years, the water has been used over and over again. But the earth and the earth's atmosphere take it through a process of cleansing. The water goes into the ground, goes into the streams, into the ground. It gets, evaporates, goes up into the clouds. It goes through a process. You got salt water evaporating into the clouds, and a lot of cleansing takes place all the way around. And you have the trees, the rainforest, everything cleaning the air and the water also. They all work synergistically together to do this. And we need to take care of these things. I can't make you, you can't make me, but we as individuals that care about others and practice self-control, we show respect and responsibility, and we have that great character, that great attitude that we look forward to having. In fact, one of the things that I like to try to share with everybody is, you know, people that have, I'm on the overhead right now, people that have a positive attitude have a better life. Attitude really is everything. It's not something that you just change from day to day, really. I mean, yeah, your attitude can change a little, but or your mood, but your general attitude, the way you are, how people would describe you that have known you for a period of time. It could be pessimistic or it could be optimistic. And there's people in this room, I know that some are pessimistic, some are optimistic. But you'll find if you're optimistic about things, you'll have a better life. You'll look at things with just a different view. Things won't affect you so much, you know. You'll be able to handle things so much better. In fact, I've got a little slide here on that, optimism and pessimism. And I apologize, the slides aren't working right now, so we've got to look at the little overhead here, which you can't really read. But optimism and pessimism in your thoughts. Although thinking positively is important to how you treat yourself and others, many people must learn how to be optimistic, positive thinkers. And that's what we're doing here in the Peaceful Solution. Being optimistic is a positive character trait that will enable you to expect the best possible outcome from a situation. Did you get that? To expect the best possible outcome from a situation. Optimistic people are hopeful and encouraging to themselves and others. Pessimism, on the other hand, is a negative character trait, and you'll find that person always complaining, will always see what's wrong with every situation. He usually has a problem with almost everything and jumps to conclusions without getting all the facts. And that's an important thing, too. We're going to be talking about something here just shortly, and it has to do with, you know, rainforests and so forth. And without getting all the facts, you could jump to conclusions. And it's interesting to get all the points of view. But pessimistic people are negative thinkers. A pessimistic thinker has a tendency to feel badly about himself and the world around him. Pessimistic people are negative self-talkers and are more likely to find external ways to try to make themselves feel better. Often these ways are negative, and you guessed it, risky. All right, so all right, we have one more box there on 183. The earth has a constant flow of water that can be harnessed to produce mechanical and electrical power over and over again. Now, I don't think our slides are working yet, so I've got a picture right here of, this is the Niagara Falls. Oh, that is very blurry today, the overhead. Very blurry. So anyway, this is the Niagara Falls Power Station. And this has had a few updates from time to time over the years. And it generates a massive amount of power, actually enough to power a couple cities. So, in fact, to power the manufacturing in a couple cities. So it actually, I mean, they're expensive to build, but once they're built, that power keeps regenerating over and over again, and with little harm to the resources. Yes, they had to make the big electrical generators and so forth, which required processing and probably used a massive amount of water in doing that, you know. Who knows what else came into play. But it's interesting that it's the water causing the power, so they're not having to burn anything, or they're not having to buy any fuel. They've built that, and the water's flowing through there, and it keeps on cranking. So the electrical power that is produced by water is called hydroelectricity. The power of the water in Niagara Falls is so great that it can generate enough electricity for factories in the cities of Niagara Falls, New York, and Niagara Falls, Ontario. So those are the two cities that it generates for, and they might have expanded it by now. I don't know, this has been a while ago. Do we have the slides working yet? No? Okay. All right, well, I've got some pictures here to show you. All right, so let's turn over to page 184, please. Page 184. All right, we're going to be talking about land. So in addition to the air and the water and so forth, land is also a valuable resource needed by humans, plants, and animals. All the Earth's animals and plants live either on the Earth's surface or close to the surface. This can be underground, underwater, or in the air. And as you know, even underwater there's land, right? When you get all the way down to the bottom, what did you get to the bottom to? You hit some land, right? It's not dry land, it's wet land, but you know, it's land nevertheless. It's dirt and other things. So the land's resources can be used in many ways. Soil, for example, is used to grow grains and vegetables. Rocks and minerals are used to make tools, and iron is mixed with other elements to make steel. In addition to this, wood from trees is used to make paper, furniture, and build houses. Okay. So be thinking about that for a minute. And if you've ever built anything, if you've ever been in any type of metal shop, if you've ever used any minerals of the land, including like in supplements and so forth, in health items, or also if you've ever used any of these things to decorate with, and then the wood, if you've ever used wood to build something, if you've ever cut down a tree and made your own lumber, or used a piece of a tree for some reason, whether it be even for burning, you know, in the wintertime for warmth, right? Keep these things in mind and be thinking about it as we're talking about it, okay? Some more of that nice water, by the way. Okay. Continuing on, areas that are classified as rainforests flank the equator in South and Central America, Asia, Africa, and Australia. Although rainforests account for less than 7% of the land surface, they contain more than 50% of the Earth's plant and animal species. Can you imagine that? They account for less than 7% of the land surface on the Earth, but they contain more than 50% of the Earth's plants and animals, species that is. Some scientists claim it could be as high as 90%, because the life, the many different species and everything is so abundant in that type of surrounding. Now, rainforests provide many of our land resources, and some of the most diverse groups of plants are found there. A wide variety of animal and insect species also live in the rainforest, and many of these are even yet to be identified by scientists. So you mean there's species of plants and insects and so forth that still haven't even been found and identified? Really? Now that's amazing to me. I mean, aren't we in the 20th or 21st century? I mean, we're like so technologically advanced. I mean, we know everything, right? But yet we still don't even know these basic things that they can go out there and pick around and find. You know, think about that for a minute. And yet we're talking about going to the moon and Mars and, you know, healing diseases and so forth, but we don't even know what insects are crawling on the earth. Amazing to me. Many of these are yet to be identified. Some of these plants are not only used for food, but also for medicine. In fact, for thousands of years, plants were the only source of medication available for diseases. And that's true. I mean, for like almost 6,000 years, plants were used for healing. It was your food was your medicine. And some of the things you don't eat, of course. Some of the things have a high toxicity that are useful yet in healing things, but you wouldn't want to be eating them to any extent. Some of them are very dangerous if you take them orally. So you've got to know what you're doing. But as time went on and they started finding ways to eventually synthetically produce these things and started mixing the medication of old, the food, the plants and so forth, started mixing it, and then it started becoming something that they found they could make money off of. And so it started becoming proprietary, and it started being patented and so forth, until now these money-making ventures found that they could make just huge amounts of money on it. And that's what's taking place now. In fact, now that the same people that used medications for many thousands of years now are looked upon as quacks by the modern medical community that hasn't even identified all the bugs and plants on the earth yet. Well, so in our modern society, there is a resurgence of the use of plants for medicinal purposes, and many people report that natural products, herbs for instance, are beneficial to their health and well-being. Many of the fruits and vegetables that we are familiar with originated in the rainforest. Now, these aren't the ones that have been genetically modified. They're the ones that are original, that originated, original. Get it? Originated? That's where they started at, you know? And interestingly enough, on the next page, on page 185, well, let me just say, you know, in traveling around to different places, you see things that are like amazing. I know in areas of the United States, South Texas, West Coast, you could actually run across fruit trees that have been there and growing for, you know, 50 years plus, that are producing just awesome fruit that have so much flavor, and I mean, they're just unreal. Now, it's not always the most beautiful. In fact, I've come to realize, in my opinion, that when I'm looking for the tastiest oranges out there, it's not those big, fat, beautiful-looking navel oranges. I have not found many of those that have any flavor. It's those little bitty things about as big as my fist or smaller that are, you know, not the most pretty ones. They've got a little bit of roughness on the outside and everything, and cut them open, they got some seeds in them and stuff, but man, those things are awesome. And those are the, you know, the original fruit from the trees from South Texas mostly, I believe. And it's just so different. For those who've never tasted those, I highly encourage you, because you know, it can give you an idea of the abundance of what is out there for us if we take care of it. You know, we don't have to have the biggest, nicest looking fruit that looks the same all year long, that you could put on in a basket on the table, and 2 months from now it's still there looking exactly the same. You know, those things just have no life, man. They got no flavor. In fact, those little oranges I was talking about, you could actually leave those out for a long time, and even though they even get hard on the outside, when you cut that thing open, most people probably just pick them up and throw them away, but if you cut it open, right inside there is that same juicy, wonderful texture. It's like it's that peel actually protected it all that time. It's just unreal how the original stuff is made. And I'm sure if we went back thousands of years, we would see even more awesome, wonderful things than that. I can't do it right now, but you know. Okay, so shopping in the rainforest on page 185. Shopping in the rainforest. All right. I don't know if they have any grocery stores there in the rainforest, but read the following list and circle the items you think originated in the rainforest. Now get this. Have you looked at that list yet? Take a look at it. Coconuts, okay, I can see that. Bananas, guavas, mangoes. Potatoes? Really? I thought they came from like, you know, Russia or Ireland or somewhere. But yams, cayenne, cinnamon, Brazil nuts, ding, ding, ding. Figs, really? Okay. Sugar cane, pineapple, tomatoes, really? I would not have thought that. Rice? Okay, spices, chocolate, cloves, cashews, yes. Oranges, turmeric, vanilla, corn, winter squash, black pepper, coffee, ginger, peanuts, all these things. You know, it says how many did you circle. If you circle them all, you're correct. All of these things originated in the rainforest. Just absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? All right. Rainforests once covered 14% of the Earth's surface, but through deforestation, which is the process of clearing trees from a forest, mainly through burning, rainforests now cover only 6% of the Earth's surface. Sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? I mean, there is no shortage of the information that you can find out about rainforests and what they do for us and everything. Sometimes I get a little bit skeptical when I start seeing all of Hollywood and political people getting on there and touting a certain thing. I get a little bit skeptical, and so in wondering what the real deal was, you know, I started looking at it a little bit, but you'd have to make your own decision on that. So indeed, they are doing that. They are reducing the rainforest, which is bad for us because it doesn't process the carbon dioxide in the air as well as, you know, trees are very important to have, right? Trees here in the United States, trees in the Amazon, trees in Australia, trees everywhere. They're very needed, okay? Green plants, much needed. But I wondered why there was so much emphasis put on the rainforest. And so I read a little bit more. And did you know that approximately 78 million acres of the world's rainforest, get this, are destroyed every year through deforestation? That's massive. Now, what takes place? I'm sure if you go to your local lumber store, you'll find some products that are probably from there. Anyway, that averages to 150 acres destroyed every minute of the day. Can you believe that? Every minute. So how long since we've been here? How many hundreds of acres have been destroyed? Thousands of acres have been destroyed. Anyway, let's I want to show you these pictures here real quick. They were on a slide. I don't know if you can see them on the overhead. So this one right here is a picture of an area that has been some deforestation around there. If you look, it's cleared areas, still green and everything, and there's still potential. Here is some burning of those areas. They just go through and burn it. They don't even use the wood. They don't even cut the wood down and do any logging. They don't take any of the medicinal herbs out. They don't do anything except start a fire and burn it out. Here's an area right here that's been clear cut, and they're doing some mining because for the minerals and all. They've clear cut it, they burn it, whatever, and they're also doing some mining and using up the ground there. Then the causes of deforestation. You've got agriculture, which is the biggest area here, all right, which is 64%. You've got the logging industry, which really, when it comes down to it, you know, that's let's see. The logging is roughly 18%. The cattle ranches are 8%, and wood for fuel is 10%. What you mostly hear about when hearing about the deforestation is the cattle industry. In fact, Brazil exports more beef than any other country. And guess where they export a lot of it to? Yeah, you know, go out and get your hamburger tonight. Guess what you're probably eating? You could be eating Texas beef or beef from the United States, but possibilities are you're eating some from Brazil. Because all the major meat manufacturers, beef manufacturers, actually get products from Brazil. Okay, so the logging industry, 18%, we'll hear a lot about that because that really seems to be the one that they really focus on. Let's go ahead and watch that first clip.
We're being led to an area where illegal logging is taking place. Well, we're making our way now deeper into the forest. We're being led to an area where illegal logging is taking place. And here we're at the edge of a national park, an area that's supposed to be protected.
Tem uns 2 anos que eu tô trabalhando nisso. 15, 20 árvores, entendeu? É pela minha sobrevivência, entendeu? Pela minha sobrevivência da minha mãe, entendeu? Que eu tenho minha família também, entendeu? Apesar de eu não ser casado, mas eu dependo disso. Tem sim, são vários riscos, né? De ser preso, vários riscos. Dá uma bicha dessa cair em cima da gente, o perigo é constante. Entendeu? Quanto a fiscalização também pegar, é cadeia, né?
Is this what you're going to do for the rest of your life?
Eu creio que sim. Enquanto existe madeira para nós derrubar, vamos derrubar.
How often are you carrying out these kind of search operations here?
O crime é contínuo, né? Eles não param, incessantemente a gente apreende os materiais, a gente leva, nos conduz, mas infelizmente eles voltam a cometer o mesmo ato infracionário.
How difficult is it in terms of resources, in terms of personnel? Are you lacking a lot of the things that you need?
Efetivo, materiais modernos e armamentos e o essencial que seria uma educação ambiental levada às comunidades e meios de eles sobreviverem da terra, mas não dessa forma.
The heat is building now and there's ash falling in the air. No attempt has been made to hide this. It's at the side of a busy road. And when fires like this happen here, it's not the work of nature, it's the work of man. In the global fight against climate change, this is one more loss.
Meu pai chegou aqui mais ou menos no ano, né, de 72, né? E veio naquela intenção de desbravar a Amazônia, entendeu? Que o governo incentivava, né? Vai para a Amazônia e pegue uma terra, desbrave ela. Para nós que somos hoje, que vivemos da pecuária, somos agricultores hoje, né, ninguém planta no asfalto e muito menos no ar, né? A gente precisa adquirir uma área que seja pequena ou grande para poder fazer um plantio ou então uma criação agropecuária, entendeu? A Amazônia não é só mata, e sim é uma área que está em desenvolvimento para culturas e criação de novos investimentos.
Is there any message you would like to send to the climate conference? Anything you think the leaders there should understand?
Eu mandaria um recado hoje que eu acho que teria que fazer igual vocês que estão vindo hoje aqui, vierem logo na propriedade, visitar o pecuarista, visitar o agricultor, visitar o grande, o pequeno e o iniciante. Vir no local e sentir a realidade, o que é a Amazônia hoje, entendeu? O que é o dia a dia da pessoa, para depois a gente poder comentar do assunto sobre a Amazônia, do clima, do dia a dia de cada um.
A sensação é como se tu fosse Dom Quixote e lutando contra moinhos de vento, sabe? É como se alguma coisa significativa para a Amazônia só pode acontecer se os grandes empresários, se os grandes produtores, se eles tiverem uma sanção por desmatamento. Quando o povo disser, eu não compro nada resultado de desmatamento, aí pode ter uma mudança.
So you got a couple different points of view there, right? You have people that, you know, want to make a living for their family. You have some that years ago, before the new political environment, said go out there, work the land, clear a spot, raise some cattle, feed the people, so forth, you know. And Brazil Brazil became known for their beef, you know. So who's right and who's wrong? I mean, you know, yes, we do need as many trees as we can get. We do need that rainforest with all the species there that is hard to, if you could ever even replace it. But let's move on here. So at the rate of the destruction, it gets higher every year. When loggers come into the rainforest to cut the valuable hardwood, they build roads which become accessible to farmers and ranchers as well. When the land can no longer sustain the farmers' and ranchers' livelihoods, cities and towns are built. If deforestation continues, it's estimated that in the next 40 years, all of the remaining rainforest will be destroyed. Experts estimate that we are losing 137 plant, animal, and insect species every single day. Wow. This includes many other plants that can be used as fruits, vegetables, and spices. Just think about all the fruits and vegetables that we have never tasted, nor will we ever taste, because in the time it took you to do the previous exercise, approximately 600 more acres of rainforest were destroyed. As the rainforest disappears, so too do many animal and insect species, as well as plants and trees that could be the cure for life-threatening diseases. So, you know, you think about that, and if you saw in the video, it said many times at night when they're moving the logs, it's illegal logging, but this time it wasn't, meaning that it was legal logging. Well, what makes it legal and illegal? The government has said who gets to and who doesn't get to. Who gets to? The rich corporations that are paying whatever they, you know, however they do their thing, while the poor farmer or logger that, though he's breaking the rules, yes, he is breaking the rules, but you find people that are living in squalor that are looking for some way to feed their family, you know. So, you know, what's the answer here? And that's one of the reasons why the peaceful solution. Again, you can't change that other person. We've already seen all this, people wanting to take people to court and do this and change the rules, then you get somebody else in power and the rules change again and so forth and so on. That doesn't work. You have to have individuals that care about people. You have to have individuals that care about the environment. Okay? So, does that make us any better here in the United States? Well, let me just show you something. I have an article here that talks about the United States. It boasts the world's fourth largest forest estate, encompassing approximately 8% of the global forest. With almost 766 million acres of forested land, forests cover about 1/3 of the country's total land area. From the breathtaking boreal forests of Alaska to the vibrant deciduous forests in the eastern region, the sprawling pine plantations in the south, which I've seen, the enchanting temperate rainforests along the west coast, and even the tropical rainforests in Puerto Rico and Hawaii. The diversity of American forests is remarkable, and while 69% of these are under private ownership, the remaining lands are carefully managed by local, tribal, state, and federal governments to preserve their ecological integrity. Okay. Well, you know, where do we get our lumber? I mean, I know some of the big box stores do get their lumber from the rainforests across the globe other than here in the United States. So we're protecting ours, but, you know, calling everybody else out on not protecting theirs. So once again, what do? Who controls this? You know, again, when I see Hollywood and everybody up in arms about it, it makes me wonder, okay, what's really going on? But the logging and timber industries, the demand for timber products drives extensive logging activities across the country. And this is in the United States, especially in Oregon, Washington, and Georgia. I know in the South, like in Arkansas, these big companies, they do cut down the pine trees, and this is specifically pine I'm talking about. Not a lot grows around the pine. They grow these things, they cut them, replant, 20 years later or less, they're cutting them again and again, and they do it over and over again, and they found it to be very beneficial for them, as well as, you know, trees being kept, you know, revolving. So, let's see, agriculture and expansion of croplands. To meet the growing demand for food and biofuel production, vast areas of forest are cleared for agricultural production, including soy, corn, palm oil, and so forth. This practice is prevalent in the southeastern United States, where forests are converted into croplands. Between 1982 and 1997, approximately 55% of land originated from forested areas. These is agricultural land. This shift reflected a continued conversion of land from less intensive uses such as forests to more agriculturally focused uses, including cropland and pasture. And there is, you can't really see this, let me see right there on the overhead. This shows the percentages of states that have tree coverage. You see some states more in the south that are 54%, 71%, 66%. It shows Texas is 37.1%, but I don't know when they got that number. I mean, they must be counting the mesquite trees too. So one area up there looks like it could be, well, 58%, 78%. So a lot of forested tree areas up there on the East Coast too. So anyways, it's there, and I think when looking at this, yes, we can all agree that this is bad, what's taking place, that complete clearing out, going in, these big companies going in and just clear cutting, and think of that. Again, 150 acres every minute of the day, and that destruction gets higher every year. 600 acres of rainforest were destroyed while we were talking about that activity up there of, you know, circling how many products originated, you know. Can you believe that? I mean, that is it really is unbelievable that it could be that much. So it is bad. But I see where, when you go and you start researching this, you see where the little guy is really picked on a lot on this thing too. And you know, a lot of times it's people trying to feed their family. I mean, think about ourselves, you know. And again, you have to have some critical thinking when you're thinking about how to take care of a problem. And you as teachers of the peaceful solution are going to have problems come at you sometimes. And how are you going to take care of it? Are you going to jump to a conclusion just because the media showed you this or showed you that? Are you going to jump to the conclusion that, oh, these guys, they shouldn't be doing that? And are you going to get the facts? Are you going to investigate? Check it out. Because as you look around, and then you think about yourself. If I bought a piece of land right now with trees on it, expecting that if I bought a 20-acre plot of land with trees on it, and I was expecting to go in there and clear out a couple acres for, you know, a nice house and a barn or something, you know, and then clear out about another 10 acres of it for a couple cows and maybe a little bit of livestock and another half acre to an acre for a farm. All of a sudden I've cleared out about 20 acres, leave a few trees there, you know, have a few trees spotted around. But what have I done? I've clear cut it almost, right? Now, what am I? Am I the bad guy? What does it take to be the bad guy? Where do we draw the line? Do we draw the line because of this person that lives in Brazil? And we don't have to look at them? We don't have to hear their story? What are we doing? So you weigh these things and look at the answer, and the answer is, guess what? We all have to be respectful. We all have to be responsible for these resources. We all have to take care of each other. It comes back down to what we've said before, is that attitude of how you encompass everything, that attitude of peace, the attitude of helping others, the attitude of treating others as you would have them treat you. That's it. If you have the attitude of just making money, then somewhere along the way it's probably going to go sour. You're going to find yourself in a bad situation and probably not even know it, you know? So before we jump to conclusions as students and teachers of the Peaceful Solution, let's get all the facts. Let's look at some more of these facts, though. Food for thought, page 186, if you would. Page 186. And by the way, I think we skipped here a little bit. Let's go to Procedure 7 on Lesson Plan 7, page D real quick. We should have went there just a page ago anyway. Tell students that the next vital resource that's affected by the lack of respect and appreciation is our land, and have students name some of the resources that come from our land, which we've done. Tell students that when we contaminate and overuse our land, we affect not only our lives, but the well-being of the plant and animal kingdoms as well. Have students turn to pages 184 and 185 in the handbooks and read land, and stress to students that we depend on the land in more ways than it is first apparent. And have students complete the exercise found on 185 in their handbook, which we already did that. Sorry about not hitting the procedure here first. And then we see that looking at procedure number 8, you see there's a skip there from page 185 to 188. Well, that's 186 and 187, which we're basically looking at right now. So let's go back over to page 186. At least 3,000 fruits are found in the rainforest. However, only 200 are now used in the Western world. At one time, there were approximately 10 million Indians living in the Amazon rainforest. Today, there are less than 200,000. So we do see some consequences, some effects that have taken place because of this, because it is major, don't get me wrong. Rainforests are cleared with chainsaws and bulldozers. The land is then used for farming and ranching operations. Taking care of the rich land resource we call the rainforest, which supplies an abundance of food crops, is beneficial for all mankind. And I would fully agree with that. What you get is, because people don't care for other people, because people aren't really concerned about how they treat others, and because people are out for money in their lifetime, and they say, that'll be all right in my lifetime, let somebody else deal with it, you know. You got corrupt government officials. Everybody knows that we see it every day. Not everybody's just totally corrupt, but I mean, we see it every day where people are doing things, you rub my back, I rub yours type of thing. We see the lobbyists that come in and talk to government officials and put big money in their campaigns and let them use their RV for vacation, or give them tickets to the Jets game or whatever. You know, we see that all the time. And it's so they can get their way. And they know they're going to get their way in doing that. And it goes on everywhere. It's not just in the foreign countries. It might be more blatant there. I don't know. I've seen some pretty blatant things lately in our government too. But you know, and I'm not trying to talk bad about the government. There's great people in there that do try to change things, and probably all when they first go in there, they're trying to change things for the better until they find out that they have to play the game. So that's another part of it, is, you know, being respectful, having that character to stand up against all these odds coming at you, and practicing self-control. You know, doing all these things, and also communicating. You know, on page 99 of the teacher's manual of the character unit, I think it was in. But poor communication can lead to disrespect. Actually, so poor communication. We need to be able to communicate and communicate with each other. And a lot of times, if we might find that communication with all these people that are involved in all this clear cutting and everything, if everybody was involved, maybe they could come to some kind of conclusion that would better work for everybody. And then being a positive leader. Being a positive leader, we have to remember that part of being a positive leader is having these great character traits and leading by example, and being respectful and being responsible, compassionate, and diligent in what we do. And we also have to be humble. You know, if we think that we're better than everybody else, and you know, you're going to do what I say, or it ain't going to get done, or you know, this type thing, that's not how you lead. That's not how you're a leader. You know, you lead by teaching and guiding. And so these fights that take place and these wars, they've actually fought wars against the ranchers and the loggers and the climate people and all this, you know, all these things that have taken place. It's just ridiculous how bad it is. But one last thing here is on page 187 at the top, the amazing facts. 2.5 acres of tropical rainforest might contain more than 600 species of trees. That's amazing, because in comparison, the forests in the United States and Canada contain about only 700 different species of trees in that same 2.5 acres. One study reported, no, I mean not in the 2.5 acres, but all together in the United States and Canada contain only about 700 different species. I apologize. In the rainforest, there could be 600 different species in that 2.5 acres. One study reported more species of ants living on a single rainforest stump than exist in the entire British Isle. And rainforests also play a critical role in global climate regulation by absorbing carbon dioxide. Well, you know, there's a lot of things that some people are confused about on exactly what causes this climate thing, but we do know that the trees do pull in the carbon dioxide and put off oxygen, which is much needed. So we're going to stop right there. You know what? Show that 1 minute clip real quick. There was one more clip. Let's show that to end it with. Being a positive leader, you too can do something.
This is the story of how one man grew his own rainforest. When he started, the trees on this land had been cut down for farming. And it took him 40 years to restore them. Very few people have ever achieved a transformation like this. He's grown a tiny oasis in a sea of development.
People fixing the world.
This haven for nature in the middle of Ecuador is all here thanks to Omar Teo. He hated seeing the Amazon rainforest get cut down, so he decided to regrow some of it.
People thought I was mad, but I've watched this whole paradise disappear to the point where seeing a wild animal alive is a luxury. All the big trees are gone, except for the ones in completely inaccessible places. So I said to myself, I've got to do something to save these species.
And so 40 years ago he bought this land and set about replanting it. He gave up his job as an accountant and scraped by with little money to work full-time in the forest. He found rare seeds and cuttings from deep in the Amazon basin and replanted them here. Eventually the wildlife started coming back too. Omar's filmed snakes here. And brightly coloured bees.
You can find the most spectacular things in the forest. The bees aren't gathering nectar, they're gathering perfume.
But Omar's forest stretches just a few hundred meters each way. And the land around it is being developed. Even the road leading to the forest is being paved. But now, Omar's helping others to do what he's done. He's travelled to a village 100 kilometers away to advise this farmer how to regrow a forest on his land. But how do you make it worthwhile for farmers like him to give up land they earn money from? This woman thinks she's found a way. She's asking people who are worried about climate change to pay farmers in the Amazon to restore their land.
Our idea is that anybody around the world can sell anything that promotes the restoration of an ecosystem. Sort of as if you hire someone to come clean your house or to come fix your foundations from termites or whatever. It's not something that brings you, something tangible. It's a service that brings you the sensation that your house is not going to fall. So this is kind of the same idea, but with a bigger house, which is the planet.
The farmer Omar's advising now gets $250 a month in return for restoring this patch of land.
I couldn't see any way to make money from it, but my dream's always been to preserve the forest.
Omar is one of the only people in the world ever to have done this. His role in this project is to share his knowledge. The project only started in 2019, and just a handful of farmers have signed up so far. But Omar says it's essential conservation work.
If one day a tree becomes extinct, people can turn to these kinds of places and they can say, there's the sapling, there's the seed. This is the only way to stop it getting wiped out for good.
Over on that right there, but I wanted you to see where, you know, it can be turned around. Now, will it be exactly the same? It'd probably take a very long time to get back to what it was, but we can see that one person can make the difference, and that's what we teach in the Peaceful Solution, that you can make a difference. You can be a positive leader and make a difference for the entire rest of the world. Thank you for coming tonight, and our next class will be on September 27th, Wednesday, September 27th at 5:30 p.m. Everybody's invited. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.